Hello, welcome back. So this is part 2 of a sequence of videos. I'm not sure how many there'll actually be in the completed series, but effectively number 2 this is. In step 1 in the previous video, which I hope you've seen by now, I emphasised the importance of having a plan, especially at times like this, when effectively most people's routine has sort of gone out the window. People find themselves predominantly at home and with a lot more time on their hands than they used to be, and spending a lot more time with people in their home, if they have people in their home, than they used to have. And these are very important things to consider. So I emphasize the point of having a plan, because you can do what's within your control column, as I called it, if you have an idea of what it is that you're attempting to move towards in terms of your own plans for the future, your own goals and things like that. And one of the things that's very important to have a plan for is to have a plan for health at this moment. But it could be anything at all. The continuation of your business if you run a business yourself, or the continuation of the business you work for if you're working for another business. But in general, what plans do you have for the next 3 months, 6 months, and year? And if you want to, 5 and 10 years into the future, and ask you to sit down and give it some thought. So we're going to move with that today. Part 1 of the process is to have a plan. Part 2, if you remember, is to have a feedback device to know whether you're moving towards or away from the plan. Part 3 is to change what you're doing if what you're doing is not moving towards the plan. And stage 4 is find someone else who knows what to do if you've frankly done everything you think you know what to do and it's still not getting you towards the results that you want to get. So step 1 is the plan. It's important to have a plan, because you'll probably never go directly from where you are now to the compelling future that you build for yourself. But the purpose is to have your eyes on the prize, as it were, to have an idea of what that plan is, so that when you're moving towards it, you can kind of direct yourself towards it as you move towards it. So as I've said before, I used to work in the feature film industry, and no film ever went from point A to point B being delivery day, in a straight line. They never did that. It was always like that, but we got there every single time. And that's the purpose in having a plan, is when everything goes sideways from what you're expecting, that you still actually have a plan. So for example, I made a plan in 2016 that was a 5-year detailed plan for where I was going to be in 5 years' time. I'm 3.5 years into that plan, and everything that was supposed to happen in the first 3.5 years has happened. So I can only assume that the stuff that's going to happen by the 5th year is still going to actually happen, even though I could not have anticipated and foresaw this current global event unfolding when I made the plan. But I still have the plan, so I'm still heading towards that with everything I've got, and then some more. And I think I said last time that the road less travelled is the bit more. What does it take to get everything you want to get in life? It takes everything you've got, and then a bit more. And it's that bit more that defines the 1% of the people that consistently achieve results. And that's what you want to become. Because anything that anyone else can do, you can do. It's that simple. It's just a skill, and therefore you can practice your skill and get good at it. So how do we practice the skill? So we have a plan, okay? The plan could be a number of things. I'm going to suggest that health could be a good plan to make for 3, 6 and 12 months. How about coping with the confinement? How about a plan for that? For the fact that you do all right, that you come out of the other end of it, you know, and you were successful, you kept yourself together, you kept healthy, you kept your mind active, you know, you got on with reading and writing and your own hobbies and interests, and you know, you connected with your family, even if they don't live in the same household as you, electronically via Skype, Facebook, you know, Telegram. There's so many ways that we can actually communicate with each other now that we didn't used to be able to do just 15 or 20 years ago. So all of those things, and you know, how to hold my own personal space, how to be okay being as I'm being, given the world around me happening. It's a choice. I may not be able to control what's happening in the environment around me, particularly at the moment, but I can control and I have choice over how I respond to those events. And that is a choice, and that's a skill, and that's something that I help every single person that I work with to attain for themselves. And bear in mind that I actually do online coaching services for anyone who may be interested in taking this as far as it can be taken. So how do we actually formulate a plan in such a way that it becomes really solid? Really solid. So people talk about SMART goals and so on, that it has to be specific and measurable and achievable, or as if now, written as if now is my preference on that one. It has to be realistic and it has to have a time function on it. Great, lovely, but I know loads of people who set SMART goals and they're not really smart when I look at them, but they think that they're smart and they think they know what a SMART goal is. So before I even get to that, let's look at the plan itself. A plan should be compelling. It should be really compelling. I mean, the idea of being healthy in 3-6 months time and throughout all the time through that time, to me that's quite compelling. That's something that I really, really wish for myself as well as for other people. And to be there in 6 months time, having been healthy all the way through the last 6 months, that's quite a compelling future to me. To have my business still running in 6 months time is very compelling to me, and all the other things that I wish to achieve. I don't want to talk too much about my plans because they're not yours. Yours are your plans, okay? And if you hadn't sat and thought about it, then go back, listen to video 1, and then give yourself half an hour and then come back to this video. Okay, so the plan. What's your plan? Okay, so what specifically is the goal? What specifically is the goal that you're setting for yourself? It needs to be very, very specific. It needs to be very, very detailed. It needs to be very, very solid. So being more healthy is not particularly specific. Having more money is not specific. I can give you a penny, that's more money. It's not specific enough. So what's the level? Chunk down into the specifics, and what specifically is the amount of money that you want to have in 3 months' time, for example, if you're in control of your own income still. What exactly does being healthy in 3 months' time mean to you? And healthy all the way through that time. Whatever the goal is, whatever it is, whatever your plan is, what specifically is that plan? So that's number 1. So this is obviously an exercise whereby you can either pause or unpause the play, or you can go through it a number of times in order to get more and more specific with it as you go through. So that's step 1, is what specifically do you want. Step 2, because that's point B on the map, is where are you now? They're the 2 points that you need on a map when you're out there in the hills. When I'm out there, that's what I need to know. I need to know where I'm going to, that specific point. I need to know exactly what that point is specifically. And I need to know where I am now. So if I don't know where I am now, I need to take a moment and discover, in truth, where I am right now. Without any filters and without any objections and without any reference to other people or what other people think of me or anything else, or the image that I present publicly or any of that. In my own truth, in my own congruence, where am I now in this? And where do I want to be? They're the 2 points on the map. Not how did I get here, that's looking backwards. I wish it wasn't like, no, none of that. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? They're the 2 points on your map, which are really critical. And the map, incidentally, is just something you're making up in your head. You know, Alfred Korzybski said the map is not the territory, it's just a map. It's just something you're making up inside your head. It's not the outside world, it's just the map that you're making of it. And you can redraw the map. You know, the word water doesn't make you wet. The word food doesn't satisfy your hunger. So labels are not the things. So it's just a map. It's useful, but it is just a map. So where are you now? Where do you want to be? They're the real points in the map. So that's step 2. Where are you now? Step 3, what will you see when you have this goal? What will you hear when you have this goal? What will you feel when you have this goal? And it may include smell and taste. But what will it look like? What will you see? What will you hear? What will it sound like? How does it feel to have this goal? So you're kind of projecting yourself forwards into that future version of yourself that you're creating, in which this already exists. And you're kind of stepping in there and looking through your own eyes and checking it out. What will it look like? What will it sound like? What will it feel like when you have that goal? Okay, so step 4, I need some evidence. I need some evidence that this is the feedback device. It tells me whether I'm moving towards or away from the compelling goal that I'm setting for myself. If the goal's not compelling, it's not big enough for you. You need something to be compelling in order to want to move towards it. You know, if you were starving, hungry, and there's food on the other side of the room, you would be compelled to move towards it. If I told you that there was £1 million in a suitcase, in a hotel, in Bangkok, unlocked, and it'll be there for 36 hours, and it's yours if you get there. Even with current situation the way it is, I bet you would get there. I bet you would pull out all your resources and you would make it there and you would get that £1 million. Now, before I said there's a suitcase full of money over there and it's yours if you go and get it, you didn't know that you had all the resources. But a compelling future like that, trust me, you'd get there. You'd get there. Or you could say, oh, well, no, I wouldn't be able to fly out of the country. There are flights out of the country. Oh, I wouldn't have the money. You've got a credit card, or you could get one, or something. You would borrow the money. If there's £1 million in a suitcase, all you've got to do is get there. Come on. You would get there. Of course you would. So in a similar sort of way, you know, without being flippant about it, what's your future? What's compelling about it for you? That's what's really important. And then what's the evidence? How will you know that you've got the goal? Because you've got to know to stop the task of achieving the goal when you get the goal. So, is this what I was looking for? No. Carry on. Is this what I was looking for? No. Carry on. Is this what I was looking for? Yes. Stop task. So there has to be some evidence. There has to be a procedure that you'll put yourself through whereby you know that you've got the goal. If it was to have £10,000 in your personal bank account by the 17th of August, then what's the evidence that would tell you that you had that? Well, you could look in your personal account online, even if we're in lockdown, and see with your own eyes that you can actually see that there's an excess of £10,000 in that account on that day. There's evidence. So how will you know when you have the goal that you're attempting to get? Okay, so that was step 5. Step 6, oh sorry, so that was step 4, wasn't it? Yeah, step 5 is, what will this do for you? And what will it allow you to do? So what will it do for you? And what will it allow you to do? So if I went back to the money for a moment, it's not that you would want that money because, you know, you don't want to just collect pictures of the Queen and look at her. You know, it's not about the money. It's about what does that actually do for you? What does that help you to achieve? So a level of money may allow you to take a much needed break after all of this has gone by, or it may be that you're saving up for a deposit for a house, and therefore what it will actually allow you to do is to put the deposit down on the house, which will allow you to move into that home. What will those things allow you to do? What will it do for you? What will it allow you to do? So that's what you have to keep in your head. Okay, so then number 6, is it self-initiated and self-maintained? So a really good and compelling goal should be something that's in your control column. It should be you're doing it for yourself. It's self-initiated. Not, I'm going to give up smoking because my husband doesn't like me smoking. I'm not doing it for myself then. I'm doing it for someone else. So is it self-initiated and is it self-maintained? Am I in control of the maintenance of this when I achieve it? So the answer should be yes to both parts of that question. If it's within my control to do it, then I can get on with finding out how I actually do it. And if it's within my control to maintain that once I get there, then that again, it's in my control. What can I do that's within my control? It's self-maintained and it's self-initiated. Step 7, where, when, how, and with whom do I want this? So when, where, how, and with whom do I want this? So there's 4 elements to that question. Can't just say with everyone right now. Is that really specific enough? You know? So to be very clear with myself about what it is, who I'm having it with, how it's happening, when it's happening. You know, if I can't just be happy all the time. I mean, if I was happy all the time, just one emotion, that'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it? Doesn't matter what the emotion is. Just one emotion. That's not very, it's not very congruent, is it? You know, again, given what's going on in the world right now, is it really congruent to just be happy all the time? I don't think it is. So where am I going with that? Who do I want it with? Different things for different people. If it's a work-orientated goal, it may be stuff to do with my colleagues in work, or it may be to do with a particular organisation that I'm in negotiation with to have a contract which may be very lucrative to both sides. If it's where, it might be literally the country that's in. So one of my potential contracts at the moment is not actually in this country. So that would be in a different country specifically. When, well, that contract is unlikely to exist in the next month. So when, it's being realistic about that. And with whom, you know, so all of those things, just consider all that detail. See, what we're doing is we're starting out with something, a statement at the top, which is the plan itself, whatever the goal is. And then we're starting to drill down into the detail so that we actually recover elements of the detail which we previously not thought about, so that it comes up for us and we become more clear about the goal, which is leading towards putting it in the future, which is part of a future video. But I just want us to get to the starting blocks before we actually attempt to run. So where, when, how, and with whom do you want it? Then step 8 is, what do you have now in terms of your resources? And what do you need to have in order to get to that result? So what do you have now in terms of the resources you have? And what do you need to have in order to get to the result that you want to have? For some people, it may be that you actually have all the resources, you just haven't put them all in a line yet. For some people, it may be that you have most of the resources, but you've identified there are certain things that you don't have, which you need to have in order to get to the result. For some people, it may be that they just don't have the resources necessary, but you've identified, in that instance, the resources that are necessary, which is still a step forwards, which means you can then, if you really haven't got a clue, step 4, find the others. So you go and find someone who actually can help you with that. For example, when I coach people, quite often this is exactly what's going on. I'm helping them to either identify that they have all the resources necessary and therefore they just need to implement them in the right order and sequence to get to what they want, or I help them to identify what they need and then I either help them directly to get those things, or I sometimes refer people to other services which can help them with elements of the resources that they need in order to get to what they want. So that was step 8, wasn't it? Yeah. So, and critically on that, do you know anyone who currently has it or has had it before? What this goal is that you're heading towards? Do you know anyone who's got there before? That's a good model to have in your head. You know, do you know someone, or have you ever had it before? Have you ever had it before? So sometimes it's something that I've already had before that I just need to get again. So I may have hit a goal and then moved away from that goal and then moved back towards that goal again. So for example, I've had a business in the past which no longer exists. So I built up a business from nothing before. I chose to close down that business and open up a new business, and I knew how to do it because I kind of did it before. So I knew what the resources were that were available and what was needed. And I could identify which part of that was something that was outside of my current abilities, and I identified someone else who could help me with all of that, and then I went to that. So that's still within my control because I'm still exerting the control. I'm still initiating it. I'm still going out there. Even if I'm finding someone else to help me with something, it's me that's doing that. I'm initiating that process. So that's an important part of it. So next step, for what purpose, step 9, do you want this? What's your purpose in achieving this goal for yourself? What will happen if you do get it? What will happen if you do get it? And what will happen if you don't get it? What will happen if you don't get it? And then, what will happen if you don't get it? What will happen if you don't get it? Kind of a funny place to put your mind, isn't it? And lastly, what won't happen if you don't get it? What won't happen if you don't get it? So these last questions are part of a thing called Cartesian coordinates by Descartes. And you need to just consider these because this is kind of like your purpose. If you can get your purpose in life connected to the results that you're getting, then the other sort of elements start to slot themselves in order to support you forwards towards what you identify and what you fixate on. So this kind of loosens it up a little bit. So what will happen? What's your purpose in getting this? And what will happen if you get it? And what won't happen if you get it? And what will happen if you don't get it? And what won't happen if you don't get it? So they're the 9 questions for you to apply. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you may want to go back and revisit this step by step. You can pause it, work on step 1, pause it, work on step 2, and so on. If you're serious about your future, then look, the amount of time that you're going to invest now will repay itself time and time and time again over in the results that you start to generate for yourself. And this is how to do it. This is the basic platform from which you leap. So do what the successful people in this world are doing and create for yourself using this template, which is the keys to an achievable outcome. An achievable outcome is the key thing here. And make it compelling, bold, and bright, and for you. So in the next video, I'll start to implement this process. We'll turn it into a SMART goal, and then we can install it in your future in such a way that it starts to come true. Do remember that there are 3 things for change, 3 requisites for change. Because all change, all behaviour, all emotions, all of that stuff is all generated by the unconscious mind. It's not the conscious mind that creates emotion. It's not the conscious mind that creates change. It's not the conscious mind that creates behaviours and new patterns of being. It's your unconscious mind, but you're the driver. You need to drive your bus, because if you're not driving your bus, somebody else is. I don't know about you, but I want to drive my own bus. In fact, I am driving my own bus, and I'm encouraging you to do the same. So the 3 requisites for change are 1, so-called work in the office. That's what I'm talking about right now with those goals and working through them and actually mapping out the future that you want to design and have. Step 2 is you've got to reinforce your boundaries so that if people say that you won't be able to achieve that, that's over your boundary, and you have to put that politely back to them and say that actually you will. In simple terms, if I gave up smoking and I went to a friend's house, they don't know I've given up smoking yet, they'll offer me a cigarette and I have to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't smoke anymore. I'm actually telling myself in front of them, but they won't see it that way. They'll hear me say I don't smoke anymore. And that's certainly what happened when I gave up smoking. Of course, nobody offers me a cigarette anymore because everybody knows I don't smoke. But at one point in the past, everybody knew that I did. And the 3rd step is to focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. So if I say, think of a blue fridge, there's a blue fridge. If I say, don't think of a purple elephant, there's a purple elephant to not think about. You can't deal with negation in the mind. So, and the unconscious mind doesn't think something's a bad idea either, it's just following instructions. So if I say I'm going to have a job interview in 2 weeks and I know I'm going to panic and fail, it won't say that's a bad idea, you want to think about something different. It'll just say, okay, how much do you want to panic and when shall I begin? Because it's following instructions. Every thought you have and every word you speak is an evaluation to the unconscious mind. Every thought you have and every word you speak is an evaluation to your unconscious mind. So you need to be clear and consistent with the instructions that you give it. Because if you wake up one day and you say, I'm great, and you wake up another day and say, I'm terrible, it doesn't know what to do with that information. It's confusing. So it'll create confusing, inconsistent results because it's trying to follow it all through. So what you need to do is to give it clear and consistent instructions, and then it will support you towards what you're attempting to achieve. So it's a bit like having a torch and shining it round in the dark, and wherever you point it, that's what you'll see. Energy goes where your mind goes. It will flow wherever your mind goes. So you want to put your mind on very clear and achievable and compelling futures, and keep consistent with that and work towards that and encourage yourself towards that so that it knows what to do, so that it helps, so that it moves towards what you want to move towards. And just finally on that, Dr. Deepak Chopra in Quantum Healing, in the book Quantum Healing, said that every thought releases neurotransmitters throughout the body instantaneously. Every cell, instantaneously. So you need to keep your thoughts on positivity, on health particularly, and to focus on what you do want. And that's why I've spent so much time today focusing on how to start to create and design the future that you want to actually have. So go ahead, work back through the video. Congratulations for listening to this. I know it's been about half an hour today, so it's quite a long video, but it's full of information that's well worth it. Remember that I do online coaching, so if you want to be in touch with me to help to facilitate all of this for you, then you can get in touch with me. It's info@nlptraining.org.uk, and the information is also available elsewhere where this is posted. And do get in touch and we can arrange to work on this together online. But you have the information now, so go ahead, spend some time and start to design the future that you want to have. Okay, take care, and I look forward to speaking to you next time.